Good evening. We have another week of Overwatch questions from OverwatchUniversity subreddit. Here we go. Top question of the week was, how come low ranks hate Zenyatta? I just went on a 7-game win streak with Zen, but during this I had people ask me to swap because they die once or twice because I'm Zen. This is silver, by the way. For example, we had Amalga and Bastion die to Anti, etc, etc. This is just me having it okay, ignoring this one. Another example is we started a game with Hog, Genji, Junk, Moira, Zen. Jesus Christ, man. And Genji immediately starts complaining about me being Zen, but I just ignore him because we were rolling the first round, only losing a team fight or two because Genji or Moira went in alone or 2v5. First of all, Genji complaining about a friendly Zenyatta is crazy to me because Genji can benefit from a Harmony Orb the whole time, and you can Discord somebody for Genji to assassinate, but I digress. So anyways, how come low ranks don't like Zen then? I DPS if there's a heal orb on someone or if securing the kill is more important, but 90% of the time I had barely less damage than our other support and more healing, yet I'm still to blame for deaths. I'm asking so I may understand why these biases or dislikes for characters exist, so I'd appreciate constructive conversation, please and thank you. Well, the short answer is people in low ranks hate Zen because A, they don't understand natural cover and they think healing them is the way to win. You're on support or you're on healer and Zen doesn't heal that much because his value is, offered in different ways, which is, Discord Orb and his offensive capabilities with the occasional burst healing with Transcendence. But during the entire, building up your first ultimate phase, if they don't receive raw healing, they think you're throwing or they think you're bad, and that's going to contribute to why people dislike having Zen on their team. But it's funny because on the flip side, it's very annoying for these same low rank players to complain about facing against a Zen. They're like, how come Zen can kill 3 people on my team, and then when I dive him he has Transcendence, and then Discord Orb is so annoying. So people pick and choose their battles very selectively, as you can see. But yeah, in general, it's probably because of the raw healing output, and people think that's the only way to contribute to Overwatch, when in reality, there's nothing to heal if they're already dead. Never forget that. Next question. Who, in your opinion, is the worst hero from every role? I watched Spylo's video, etc, etc. I love numbers and discussions. For this post, I would appreciate if people just didn't say because I hate them. That to me doesn't encapsulate why you dislike the hero. I'm not looking for a 10-page essay. The discussion here is to see why particular heroes are so disliked. I can only give my opinions from my point of view. Okay, so are you saying worst objectively or worst opinion wise, why you dislike them? These are two separate questions, but for the sake of this video, I'm gonna answer both of them for you. I think the worst hero objectively in high ranked play right now for tank is Orisa. The Brawl was nerfed because armor got buffed, so the damage that Orisa does, which is 13 damage per bullet, 26 if you headshot them, that damage range is a lot weaker against the way new armor works, number one. Number two, they nerfed Orisa's survivability a lot by cutting the cooldown timers on the Fortify, and I think the cooldown on Javelin Spin, which they have rebuffed since, but once they cut that a few months ago, she became trashed here. And then C, Orisa also received a very, very small buff. It was 0.5 seconds on the Fortify for the duration, when all the other tanks received all those giga buffs for the mid-season 11 Tank Titan patch that everybody knows about. So relatively speaking, her power level is very low at the high ranks. Now for DPS, the worst hero in my opinion is probably Sojourn at the high levels. There's zero reason to pick Sojourn right now when every other DPS hero outclasses her. Again, Sojourn had her rail shot nerfed from 130 to 100 damage with barely any compensatory buffs. The only compensatory buff they gave after nerfing her little rail damage by 23% was just the fact that you can pierce your shot. But who cares? How often do you pierce multiple enemies? How often does that occur as opposed to the times that you actually have the loop of shooting a rail shot? The amount you shoot a rail shot every 5-10 seconds versus if you're lucky, even one time that people line up for a single rail. So, and Sojourn's damage, her SMG also gets cut pretty badly by armor, so she kind of sucks bad. And then for supports, the worst hero, I would say is Mercy, but all the supports are actually pretty playable in some capacity. They're all niche. None of them are like D tier. But Mercy, probably because there's less reason to pocket somebody on this patch when all the tanks are the best. You want to play heroes that enable your tank. That's why Ana is very, very good, because nano boost with the Titan tanks, amazing. Pharah got nerfed. You don't really have to play Mercy with Pharah anyways. And then Sojourn's not great, and the Mercy Sojourn, traditionally a great pairing. That's also cut off the table. So maybe Mercy with Ashe and Echo, still good, but like how often are you getting those in your games? Not as often as before. So that's why I think Mercy, not so great, but still acceptable in some niche scenarios. Now, if you're asking me the worst in terms of like why I dislike them, I dislike playing against D.Va for tanks, simply because defense matrix is so annoying. I'm an Ana main, and you know, she can just eat my nade and my sleeps and my shots, and she can dive me, and if I have no cooldowns. For DPS, probably Widowmaker. I mean, she can just delete me across the map, and for most supports, I can't contest her unless I'm like Lucio jumping into the backline and actually killing her, but I'm not a Lucio player, I'm an Ana player, and if I'm not actively looking at her, I have to play very careful with my sightlines, because if I'm scoped in looking at someone else, but in Widow's LOS, I mean, Widow can look at an Ana and be like, damn, she's scoped in, not strafing, easy headshot, I can die very easily. And then for supports, what is the most annoying support to play against? Honestly, flanking Moira. A backline TikTok Moira is probably the most annoying support to play against. Yeah. That's it. Good question. Next question is, do people underestimate how hard it is to get out of low ranks? I mean, yeah, they do. I know this is like 80% genuine skill issue on my part, but I've been bronze and gold for over 1,000 hours since I started playing. Whenever I see guides or whatever telling me how to improve, they tell me things I already know, or at least try to do. Either that or they just say turn your monitor on. But whenever I play comp, I avoid blaming my teammate, calling myself out on mistakes, switch if I'm getting countered, take high ground or off angles, all the good stuff. I may not always implement these things, but I've definitely felt significant improvement even though my rank stays the same. Is there just some barrier that keeps me from climbing? Divine intervention? Question mark. Climbing out of ranks is a very, very long process. And unless you're playing a couple of hours, like a decent amount of hours a week, or consuming content regularly to keep up, you're inevitably going to you're going to fall behind, because even though you're staying the same rank, you're technically improving because the community as a whole is getting better every single day that passes. More knowledge, more general knowledge, more mechanics, more understanding of the game. Your average silver player in 2024 probably as good as a 2017 like high gold platinum player, because just the knowledge and the keeping up is crazy. So rank is always relative to the average player base. There's still a pretty active player base. So even though you're staying the same, you're doing all right. You're keeping up with the community. That being said, if you want to climb and you're, you know, let's say you're silver, you have to play, let's say you're gold here. You have to play like a modern day platinum. And playing like a modern day platinum consistently is probably going to net you like a 55% win rate. Let's be generous. Being realistic here, having a 60% win rate is actually very crazy across 100, 200, 300 games. It is very, very good if you have 60%. But let's say on the high end, 55% win rate. 55% win rate means going, what, 55 wins, 50 losses? Is that how the math works out? I don't think so. 55, 45? My math sucks. In any case, let's just forget the percentage. Let's just say you're 55 wins and 50 losses, plus 5. Plus 5 is only good for one division if you gain on average 20% per win, right? But 55, okay, let me just do the math. Why do I feel like I'm just 55 divided by 100 games? Oh yeah, it is. Okay. It is 55% win rate. That means you go 55 and 45. Okay, let's say you have a 55% win rate, okay? 100 games. 55% win rate is going 55 and 45. 55 wins, 45 losses, plus 10. Plus 10 on average, if you gain 20%, is already on the high end of the amount of progress you make per rank. Plus 10 games is about 200%, which is only equivalent of 2 ranks. So if you're gold 3, that's good enough for gold 1. And that's 100 games. How long does it take for you, an average player, to reach 100 games at that level? It's a lot, right? Even if you play like 5 games a night, 10 games is already a lot for a sit-down session. You're a busy person. 5 to 10 games, couple of times a week. 100 games might be an entire season for some people, right? And you're only going to climb 2, and it's not going to be a linear path. You're going to, pop off for a bit. You have to take a week break because of life, and then you you normalize. Like, it is a long process. So if you don't have time to play, it is encouraged, if your goal really is to climb, to consume content, watch some helpful tips, watch playstyle stuff, and then, like, you know, things that you're doing are all good habits. And sometimes, like, you can't really tell what's a mistake and what's a missed opportunity because, like, your lens is only focused on what you know. Getting a second opinion and watching other coaching videos or other people watching your VODs is also good to learn from as well, in addition to just pumping out games. But yes, people, I would say people definitely do underestimate it because it is a very long process. That's just to put some of the numbers in perspective for people on how long it takes to climb. Next question is, why play tank? Okay, there's an edit at the top. Let's read the actual thing though. It's a bit of a rant, but it's gotten so prevalent since pushing diamond rank. I just don't understand it. 5 out of 5 games this evening, my whole team acts like I am the only role that can switch heroes. I get flamed for losing the mirror, flamed for not playing hard counter to the enemy tank, even though their entire team would then counter me. After 2 team fights, my whole team chat is spamming in chat, selling and GG no tank. I already don't join VC. If they aren't spamming chat, they're hitting me with voice lines on repeat. Why don't other roles understand that solo tanking requires serious game sense and is ruddy difficult? You have to be on form every second of the game to feel like you're contributing. I'm getting so burnt out from the toxicity. Can anyone explain this behavior? Okay, so at the end here, you're asking anyone to explain the behavior of people, you know, blaming you and stuff. It's just you're the easy scapegoat. Very easy scapegoat because there's only one of you and you draw the most attention, right? The tanks have the biggest HP pool. They're usually the ones in the front line generating space. So they're going to get the most focus at, and it's the easiest to blame, even though, you know, blame can be shifted anywhere to anybody, not adding value where possible. Maybe the tank can't do this job because the support is getting jumped by a flanker, and the support can't keep up the resources because this Cassidy isn't peeling for the tracer for the support. There's a lot of moving parts, but it's just psychology for people to always blame the biggest role and one of the most important roles, tank. So why play it? Well, it's generally not that popular for that reason. It's a very thankless job. It's the least popular role across not only Overwatch, but any MMO, any game. It's been reiterated, rehashed a million times on this channel. I always say it. Tank, no matter what, is always going to be unpopular. So at the end of the day, your first question, that's why they do that for the behavior. It's the easiest role to blame because they generate the most space. But why play it? I mean, you play it if you like the responsibility, even if it's thankless. You like soaking damage for the team. You like being the center of attention. By all means, that's why there are some people who play it. It's just not the most common role for sure. How do you play Hanzo now? Seriously, he was probably my best DPS before the one-shot nerfs, and now I can't find any impact with him. Fully charging for headshots feels pointless. I see people escape on 1 HP too often when I'm doing it. I'm a solo player, I can't even communicate when it happens, and going for body shots more frequently doesn't work for me either. I just rack up a bit of damage and no elims. I get that they reduce the cooldown of storm arrows to compensate, but for me it doesn't have the same guarantee on kills and feels more luck-based, just spamming in someone's general direction and hoping you get a kill. Hitting multiple headshots with storm arrows is hard for me, so I prefer the guaranteed kill on the primary fire that we had before. For context, my flick aiming is much better than my track aiming, so what is the correct way to play him now? If I still can't get the hang of him after trying to adapt, it looks like I'm becoming an Ashe main. So there's a couple ways that I would approach Hanzo now, but you're not wrong. I don't think Hanzo's in a great spot by any means, but number one is if you need to play in like a medium range, and like selectively play off angles and use your Sonic to your advantage. When I say selectively off angles, you can't just like go super early and then have them all turn on you and kill you. Like, let me think of an example. Like you're attacking Junkertown, right? And you know how the payload has to like go underneath the first bridge and then go underneath like that little middle 2 buildings. But as a Hanzo, you would take like a far right side angle and see if you can cheese some kills there. If you take the far like coast side angle, it's a little too far, not my favorite. So a lot of good Hanzos wall climb up, try to control that little stairway that's kind of close to like, you know, where the checkpoint is for the defenders. You have to take like a medium range and you can open up with your full charge body shot first. I would never open up with Storm Arrow Raw. You open up with your charge shot. If you land the headshot and they're not, you know, obviously at full health and you don't kill them, you have to immediately Storm Arrow second. So always full charge body shot or full charged regular arrow into Storm Arrows. If you headshot them, instantly on your first flick, you literally instinctively press Storm and try to hit the follow-ups Storm Arrow to clean them up. If you hit a body shot, it's just like 2 Storm Arrows or 3 hopefully into their body and confirm the kill depending on how far they are and how fast they react. It's totally doable. That's the best option if you're playing like the assassin style. I want to get some like solo final kills or final blows by myself. The next option is Tank Buster, where you kind of just unload onto the enemy tank and force them to retreat and not take as much space. And then honestly, the best tip is to use your Sonic to your best advantage to line up as many shots as you can, and then using your ultimate to either split or to confirm kills, right? To split off certain positions, isolate people, or of course, because the dragons move faster now, and one of the recent changes they made for it like a couple of months ago, you can just go straight for it, and that's probably your best bet on playing Hanzo right now. And also control as much high ground as you can, because obviously Hanzo does have the wall climb, and being able to control certain areas, like for example King's Row second, let's say you're attacking, if you can climb up to that little like high ground that has that little on top of the mega health pack horseshoe area, like that building is a very strong position to be in as Hanzo, and using that to your advantage as best as possible, and also being a little unpredictable as well. You're a sniper, you don't always want to go to the same spot every time or else they can read you like a book. But yeah, hopefully those tips help you out. What was the design philosophy of Sombra? Hello, I came into Overwatch late to Overwatch 1, played more Overwatch 2, so I don't know the history design of Sombra. Was she solely meant to counter Widow? No. I'm just a plat DPS, but there are times when I go on a loss streak and drop to gold. In plat, I'll usually have a good team to deter Sombras, but in gold, help is harder to find, so it's harder to deal with as Widow, which forces me to swap the Tracer to counter. I don't mean to vent much. I know she's not a problem in higher ranks. That's true. But man, I'm just trying to figure out why there is such a thing as an invisible character. I'm not a Widow main, but when I swap the Widow because the situation is right for it, one kill and the enemy swaps to Sombra right away, I'm not even a godly sniper. I use Widow to deny space, etc., etc. I mean, the design philosophy, I mean, a lot of games have invisible and stealth characters, and to be honest, they're always a skill check in almost every single video game, and they're always going to be frustrating to play against for certain players. Myself, I'm not a great League of Legends player, so like every time I've run to like Twitch or like Evelyn's, like, oh, or Shaco's, the most annoying thing ever, but like they're kind of like a skill check. Maybe Twitch is more acceptable. I haven't played League in forever, but you know, so a lot of those are like pretty bad at high ranks, because people like, you know, can skill check and actually recognize when the flanks are coming and know how to counter and suppress them and apply pressure and force them out. But you know, like you said, in gold, it's harder because people aren't as privy to it and don't recognize like the way to deal with them is to like turn around and peel and like force them out, and it's already going to be crazy good value. So there are certain heroes that are very bad against Sombra, like Widowmaker. Low HP pool, Sombra can access where you're playing. So it's going to be tough, right? Just like how you want to swap Widow because the situation is right. Their situation is to swap to Sombra and mark you. It is the right call for them to do that. It's one of the like more lopsided matchups for sure, depending on the map, of course. If you're playing Widowmaker in an area where Sombra can't reach without throwing a translocator, you can actually fish it out and sniff it out. But yeah, it is tough. It is tough. But I think the design philosophy originally was like they just wanted a stealth character, because like Sombra was an early character, like 2016, 2017. They probably were designing this in 2015 on the initial release of Overwatch, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like, oh, we want to throw some builders in here, some tanks, some healers, some supports. Let's throw in a stealth character as well. So it's less about philosophy and more about having like general ideas in gaming thrown into Overwatch as a project. You know what I mean? You have your traditional sniper, you have your traditional stealth character, your traditional shield tank, some utilities, some supports, like I said. So that's probably where they were going with that. Why is a character being strong bad? Genuine question, because I don't know a lot about game balancing, and I've heard the term broken to mean that someone is OP, which means overpowered. I've been playing Overwatch since 2021, and I've always enjoyed the game no matter what state the characters are in and what state the game is in. Hey, you're a casual player, and that is okay. Don't have to read the patch notes. Enjoy it. That's good. I do, however, want to be educated on the balancing side of things, as I have very little understanding of it at all. I've seen people in the past complain that Pharah was strong, and now I'm seeing that D.Va is strong, and people saying that she needs to be nerfed, but I feel like a character being strong compared to others is unavoidable in a game like this, no? Could someone explain to me why a character being strong is seen as a negative, and also explain about the current game state and what people are complaining about? I see more people making complaints and hardly see people praise the good things about the game. I just want to expand my knowledge. Thank you so much. Okay, so this part, let's unpack this first. This is just psychology. When things are good, there's less reason to put up like an appreciation post, versus when things are bad, people like to voice their complaints. So those voices are always going to be louder. always. Number 2, being strong isn't necessarily bad per se. It's just bad if it's strong for too long or overly oppressive for too long with not too much counterplay. And it's easier to feel the effect of this because when a character is strong, the pick rate goes up. So you'll see more people psychologically, remember how I said instead of praising, they want to complain, which isn't a bad thing. They're voicing their complaints or their concerns about a strong hero because they see it every game. Versus when a character is very weak, only the passionate players that play the weak character regularly, which is a smaller proportion of people, will complain about it versus the one that everybody sees all the time. For example, let's say Sojourn right now is pretty bad right now. Like she's very weak in this current patch, but people aren't complaining. You don't hear as much about it because you barely see any Sojourns anymore, right? So there's not as many dedicated posts. But the moment someone like a Diva is strong, a lot of people play Diva, then you'll see Diva every game, whether you play them or play against them, and it can like feed into that, you know, that loop. So it's more important to nerf oppressive things and make things, you know, push down the power level so they're closer to the middle as best as possible. So being strong is a big outlier. You don't want that. But on the flip side, you also don't want things to be very weak. You also want to bring them up as well. So we have a game where, you know, there's reasons to pick everything. Everything can be a bit niche and C tier or above. If you have a very D tier and a very S plus tier hero, I don't think that's very good. Squeeze it down a little bit, but of course, more people will talk about the strong stuff, so those get addressed way more frequently than the very weak ones. Like, for example, Hanzo, I do think is kind of weak. Maybe not as weak as Sojourn. Sojourn probably needs some compensatory buffs pretty soon, but like, because there's not a lot of noise, this one doesn't get as much attention as the other one. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. In your opinion, what rank must you achieve in order to say you are good at the game? This is out of curiosity. I recently hit Diamond and my personal goal is to reach Masters, not even GM. I consider Masters to be the point where you can definitively say you know how to play Overwatch, you know how to play it well. You're not the best of the best, but you can give pretty much any player a run for their money. But it made me curious about others' opinions if they differ. I realize that being good in your rank may not always correlate in various cases if the player lacks knowledge, fundamentals, blah, 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 blah. I wanted to know which rank you believe reflects players with the complete understanding of the game, with mastery of fundamental concepts and a proficient gameplay. This is a bit of a rhetorical question because this just depends on the person you are, right? The bar will always go up. If you are silver, you know, you'll be like, oh, when I'm silver, this is top. But when I play a gold game, like, people are so much better and they're good. But then, or actually, the previous post we just answered, remember the person said, I'm bronze to gold, but when I play platinum, people know how to deal with Sombra or whatever better at this rank. But when playing back in gold, people don't deal with her. So then, in their mind, they think platinum is good and they have better understanding and fundamentals of dealing with Sombra. But then in gold, they don't. So this question really is unanswerable because good is subjective and the bar will always go up. For me, I've hit, you know, pretty high top 500, right? Not to toot my own horn, but I've hit rank like 16 and then I hit rank like 28 in Overwatch 1 or whatever. I'm a high rank player, but to some of the pro players and even some other streamers, I'm like low tier support streamer, right? But to the general masses and the general casual audience who probably watch this video, like, I am better than 99.9%. I'm in the 0.01 percentile of the game. But then it's like, I'm much worse than any of the pro support players. I'm not as good as ML7, right? So it's like, am I good at the game? In my eyes, I don't think I'm good at the game because I'm hard on myself and I feel like I could be better. And some of them have vocally, maybe not saying ML7 playing, but there's some pro players who are pretty annoyingly rude in voice chat, like, we have fucking KarQ, you know, he's fucking low tier support, fringe support streamer or whatever they want to say about me, right? So like in their eyes, I'm not good. I don't have fundamental understanding. So, you know, I wouldn't worry so much about it. And I honestly can't even give you an answer to this. Yours is you consider Masters to be that point. That's great. For me, maybe the proficient mastery is champion 1. That's what I would say. Wrecking Ball has been extremely oppressive against me lately as a DPS. What can I do? These past 4 days I've been playing against ball players who annihilate me. I attempt to go Sombra, attempt to make Ball stop, but oftentimes it's either just me having to, the only form of CC to deal with him, or my team plays super passively, trying to deal with ball ASAP, which never goes well. What can I do? I mean, Sombra is pretty good, but I think Mei and Cass are pretty acceptable. And honestly, at the high level Tracer, in some ways, you can mark the ball. You chase him around and annoy the shit out of him. Always apply DPS pressure, and that used to be one of the cases back in the day. I remember talking to Dante, one of my Tracer 1 tip guests, and he's like, yo, honestly, ball, you can kind of like mark him. And by mark, I mean just follow him around and shoot him wherever possible, and applying deep damage pressure so he doesn't engage with full HP. And that can be enough to actually put a dent into his gameplay loop a little bit. But if you're playing Sombra, wait for the hack. If you're a Cassidy's one of the better ones since he has the close range flashbang. They nerfed his damage range, so it's actually better to play a bit more defensively. Actually throw out the hinder when the ball is about to roll away. You don't even necessarily have to hinder as soon as the slam comes down, because sometimes after the ball slams down, he'll actually go into ball form and start shooting you a little bit because he presses adaptive shield and has so much HP. It's actually better to throw the hinder. As a Cass, you know, you roll the initial slam so you take less damage on the slam, and you shoot him back as long as you can. And the moment he looks like he needs to escape because everyone's looking at him, then you throw the hinder nade. Not on reflex, but on upon reacting to the escape and the fireball and grapple away. You stop that, make him lose the grapple cooldown, and then you actually are better off. Mei is pretty safe. You can wall off the escape. And yeah, those are a couple of good answers for ball. And that is it for the Reddit questions of the week. Thank you for listening to me yap, and I'll see you guys next week.